Homer, always a pleasure. I am on set right now with Ben Mattis, who's a producer of Prince of Persia 3. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
How's the show been for you guys?
Oh, I've had a really, really good time. I have to admit, this is actually my first time at E3, so it's been a little bit overwhelming, but it's been a wonderful experience. The Ubisoft booth is absolutely amazing. All the games are getting a really good reception. In particular, I like to thank Prince of Persia 3, so I'm really happy.
And how are people responding to it?
Really well, actually. I mean, I was talking to you a little bit earlier about this, but it's been a really encouraging response. I mean, we know that Prince of Persia 3 is a trilogy. There's things here that people have seen. I mean, we always set out to create a trilogy from the very beginning, and we're wrapping that trilogy up. That said, though, there are certain gameplay mechanics that people, they see and they recognize, and yet they're really keen into the innovation that we're bringing to the title. The feedback that we've been receiving has been very positive about how they like what we're doing. They like how we're taking the best of Sands of Time, the best of Warrior Within, and creating this new opus that really kind of wraps the Sands of Time trilogy up. So the feedback has been very, very encouraging indeed.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about the game. Tell us about the story, what happens in Prince of Persia 3.
Sure.
And then you have a demo, too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I'll play
Excellent.
through the demo.
Great.
Okay, so Prince of Persia 3, we've got a bunch of ambitions for it. Like I said, we really want to wrap up the trilogy with this one. We want to go out with a bang. Our primary motivation is to really redefine the pace of the action-adventure genre. I mean, Prince of Persia sort of set the bar. Sands of Time sort of set the bar. We've got to raise it again. We do this by making sure that the player throughout the game is under a constant sense of pressure. From start to finish, while he's running through the city of Babylon, he's always got that sense of pressure. We have a couple of key emotions that we use to communicate that. I'll talk a little bit about. The first one is the feeling of being hunted. The city is overrun, occupied by an enemy army, and throughout the game they're pursuing the prince, they're chasing him through the city. He's one against many, and that feeling of constantly being pursued will certainly keep the player on their toes. The second is this emotion of being haunted. There's an evil presence dogging the prince's steps every step of the way, and I'll get a little bit more into that in just a minute. And then the third major thing that we use to kind of tie this all together is taking the game outside into this new urban environment. The game takes place in the city of Babylon, up on the rooftops, down in the alleys and in the streets. The player's no longer confined to sort of long, narrow hallways and underground caverns. We're really kind of taking it outside and then opening up the doors to that. To succeed in Prince of Persia 3, we really want the player to have to do three things. They're going to have to think fast. They're going to identify the situation, see a window of opportunity, take advantage of it. Obviously, they're going to have to act fast, and then they're going to have to kill fast. And you'll see that as well when I do the demo.
Great. Well, why don't we jump right in?
All right.
And while you're setting that up, there's a question here from Andreas, who's been emailing all morning from the Netherlands. I don't think he's sleeping or doing much. He's always here. Thanks for emailing. Will you put in an online feature for the Xbox in actual online play? So will there be an online component?
Sure. We're certainly considering the opportunities of Xbox Live and what it brings to the table. Some of the things we're thinking about are ways that we can add on to the gameplay with value add, perhaps some new maps, some new downloadables and whatnot. At its core, Prince of Persia is a single-player game. We're telling a story, and that's certainly where we're focusing. We don't have plans to change that with sort of cooperative online play. We're going to focus on the single-player experience and make sure that that's really well received.
Great. All right.
So story-wise, Prince of Persia 3 takes place right where the Warrior Within left off. The prince has returned to the city, has returned to Babylon. He's expecting a hero's welcome. As soon as he arrives, though, he quickly realizes he's going to get anything but that. He's expecting his father, the king, to roll out the red carpet, but instead, when he arrives at the city, he sees that it's under siege by this hostile army that's trying to take over the city, and he has to fight through them in order to save his city and save his people. Something I mentioned a little bit earlier on is this fast-paced action. What we're introducing is something we call the speed kill system. It's very dynamic. It's very rewarding. It showcases the prince's acrobatic skills. It showcases the prince's combat skills and allows him to quickly turn the tides in his favor. He cannot possibly hope to win this war through strength of arm alone, right? It's him against an army, and these guys are good. So in order to succeed, he takes advantage of the level opportunities, the situational awareness, and he turns the tide into his favor by quickly eliminating enemies in a one-shot kill, like you're going to see right here. Very dramatic, very rewarding. It's not about sneaking. It's about fast and furious action that rewards the player with a quick, furious kill. These speed kills can be chained together, so after you do one, like that fallen enemy, you grabbed his sword, you chained it together by throwing the sword at another enemy, and chain together the speed kill to take two out at once. after this loading screen, you're going to see a transformation between the Light Prince to the Dark Prince. The Dark Prince is the second major innovation that we're bringing to Prince of Persia 3. It's the first time in the Prince of Persia franchise that we've had a second playable character. Story-wise, the Dark Prince comes to play at the very beginning of the game. The prince is infected by the Sand of Time. He's thrown away the amulet, and he no longer has the protection that comes from that. And as the sand infects him and spreads through his body, the Dark Prince becomes more and more powerful. The Dark Prince is the physical manifestation of all of the prince's weakest personality traits. Throughout the first two Prince of Persias, you saw a lot of hints of these. You saw hints of recklessness. You saw hints of brashness, of being very sadistic. Those all really come to light with the Dark Prince. He really represents all that is the weakest and the most evil in the prince, and he's a fully playable character now.
And how does he emerge? How does he come into the game?
Well, the transformation mechanic that you saw there was one we're exploring, which is fire. So the prince voluntarily will create a fire. He'll walk into that fire, and the agony of having his skin burned by the flames unleashes the sands, and the sands sort of take over his body, and the Dark Prince comes out. And then vice versa, the water of life that we know so well from the first two Prince of Persias, that will be the transformation mechanic back into the Light Prince.
Now, can he harness the bad and use it for good? I mean, what does this evil twin serve?
Well, a lot of the game is the sort of dichotomy between the two characters. We really want to play off the emotional sort of feedback between the two of them. When you are the Light Prince, you have the Dark Prince in your mind saying, do this, do this, do this. And vice versa, when you are the Dark Prince, you'll have the Light Prince trying to guide you towards the right path. So there'll always be both. As the playable characters, they have different sets of skills and of opportunities. One thing I'm about to show you is, if you look at this arm here, there's a chain. This chain is very tightly integrated into our story. I don't want to give it away too much, but suffice it to say, it's something that the Dark Prince can use, but the Light Prince cannot. That opens up a whole new level opportunity in terms of level design for us, in terms of ways that the Dark Prince can interact with characters and environments, and the way he can kill enemies. So I'll just give you an example of the way that this thing works, right? So what he did there is he did a wall run. He then did a chain where he used it almost like to swing, and then launched into a speed kill with that chain.
Wow.
If you notice, there's sort of a halo going on around the Dark Prince. One thing we really want to try and create with this is give the player the idea of what it would be like to play to see the world through the eyes of a sand creature. That is, in effect, what the Dark Prince is. He is the prince infected by the sands. So as the game progresses, you'll see the world slightly change in terms of how it's perceived, with a filter effect that makes everything look a lot more sandy, a lot more grainy.
Oh, that's great. And the lighting effects are really interesting, too.
Thank you. We certainly we really listened to what the fans liked about Sands of Time and what they liked about Warrior Within. We certainly like the artistic direction of Sands of Time, the brightness, the light colors. It works really well with the city of Babylon. It works really well with the environment. It's important to point out that as this game takes place, as the prince is going through his quest, there is a war going on. The city of Babylon is being attacked by this army, and you'll see that with corpses around. You'll see that with explosions happening all the time. This is a constant reminder to the player that there is in fact this war going on, and that will certainly play into some of the choices that the player and the prince have to make throughout the game.
Excellent. Oh, we have a question from Simon in the UK. He wants to know how many weapons will be in the game and what are they?
Well,
besides
no problem. Each character certainly has their own special weapon. The Dark Prince has the chain. The Prince doesn't have access to that, as I said earlier. The Light Prince has his sword. The Dark Prince doesn't necessarily, or his dagger rather, the Dark Prince doesn't necessarily have access to that. So they each have their unique weapon that is their key weapon, and that has special skills that they can use with that. On top of that, we also have weapons that you can pick up from fallen enemies. Those can be used, like I said earlier, to chain together the speed kill systems. We don't want to give away too much information about all of the kinds of weapons in the game. For now, I'd like to just kind of leave it to the chain and the dagger, which are the unique weapons of the two characters.
Okay.
What I'm about to just show you here is a big payoff, I think, for the player and for the Prince of Persia franchise. The city of Babylon, the rooftops. Like I said earlier, we're taking the player out of the dungeons, out of the palaces, and we're bringing them into a big open city. And up on the rooftops of Babylon, it's really where the prince's acrobatic skills allow him to reign supreme. So up here, he has the strategic advantage, the positional awareness that comes from being up high and seeing his enemies from far, and he can turn that to his advantage. When he's in the streets, when he's running away through the alleyways, of course he's being pursued, but up here he is the master, and we really think that shows through in the way that he can just quickly take his enemies out before they even have a chance to react.
You know, I hate to do this to you because we have questions pouring in faster than I can possibly get to them, and it looks like I need to wrap. We're going to head to a package. Thank you so much for showing us. I wish we had more time, but people here can see and play on the show floor.
Yeah, we're at the Ubisoft booth. They can come by anytime.
Head over. And release date?
The release date is holiday this year, 2005.
Holiday this year.
Holiday,
Perfect timing.
4 major platforms.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Thank you so much.